Justin Trudeau rocks up late to the G20 summit, and while his plane was still idling in the parking lot, he went on to make a speech about, you won't believe it, how his climate change initiative should take priority over feeding your children. Now we'll get into the full context of this clip, but the part of it that's going viral right now on the internet is the bit where Justin Trudeau, he tells people you should take climate change as a priority over the welfare, the safety of your own children, and feeding and housing, clothing them. Let's get right into the clip here.
Disruptions of the supply chain have a lot of individual citizens, voters, families really worried that they're not able to make ends meet. And it's really, really easy when you're in a short-term survive. I got to be able to pay the rent this month. I got to be able to buy groceries for my kids, to say, okay, let's put climate change as a slightly lower priority. And that's something that's instinctive. When the storm comes, you want to hunker down and just sort of huddle up and wait for it to blow over. We can't do that around climate change.
Oh, we can't do that. We definitely can't do that. It's very easy for people to say that. Perhaps it's easy for, the guy who spends $12,000 a month on groceries. Yeah, that's right. This is an article from True North talking about how Trudeau residents spend $12,000 in 1 month on boutique goods and groceries. This isn't including the money that he spends on eating out. No, this is just the groceries for his own residence. This is unbelievable. This is his, I mean, how many Marie Antoinette moments can this guy have where, he's let them eat cake? No, he's literally telling people to prioritize climate change over the welfare of their own families. The same guy who's used so much jet fuel out there doesn't care much about. This is from people's ivory towers, right? This is incredible. First reading from the National Post. Here are the prices. Here are the precise figures on the ocean of jet fuel Trudeau burned just over the summer. According to Ottawa's own calculations, all this burned fuel cost $200,000 in global environmental damage. I don't know how they come up with these numbers, but this is incredible. Now, this is Justin Trudeau who rocked up. Turns out he rocked up late for the photo op. This is from Amazing Zoltan, by the way, on X. Go give him a follow. G20 summit, another international embarrassment for Justin Trudeau, who is late and somehow misses the photo op for a newly formed, and you'll get this. This is the ultimate irony. The entire theme of the event is Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty. Yeah, he had one job: show up, be at the photo op. And this is the craziest part about this is we spent all this money for him to go and get a stupid photo op, and what? We didn't even get the photo. That's really, at the end of the day, where we're at with this. And all he's going to do is go make these speeches. Now, nonetheless, he got his photographer to go get a shot afterwards of him all happy getting up there to get on that podium, which he wasn't even there for. He wasn't even there for. But this is incredible. Now I'm going to get into the full broader context of the clip here, so people can have context of what he was actually talking about. No, it's not. I'm not taking this out of context, and no, neither are all the people on X that are talking about this. It's all the people out there. It's going viral, this clip, because it's just so out to lunch. But here, let's get a little bit more context to this.
The challenge we're facing right now is that the direct pressures on individuals and households, the affordability crisis, that being kicked in the teeth by inflation around the world over the past few years, the concerns around the rapid pace of change, the instabilities we're seeing, the shifting geopolitics, the disruptions of the supply chain, have a lot of individual citizens, voters, families really worried
and for good reason. Now, what are the causes of all of these things? The causes are Justin Trudeau and crappy governments around the world. What is inflation? I keep having to tell people because you have to drive these things in. Inflation, what we're talking about, inflation, rising prices, those are the effects of inflation. Inflation is actually an increase in the monetary supply. So what people are complaining about is the effects of what the government has done. That's right. The government has issued new money and credit across the economy, and this is leading to rising prices. That's right. Other things that lead to rising prices are, I don't know, things like carbon taxes. When it costs more money to transport goods around the country, yeah, it'll cost more money at the end user point, the point of sale. That's right. So all these things that people are complaining about, he could alleviate by doing his job correctly. But no, we're going to wait for the budgets to balance themselves and all of these things. This is what's so infuriating about what this guy has to say here.
That they're not able to make ends meet. And it's really, really easy when you're in a short-term survive. I got to be able to pay the rent this month. I got to be able to buy groceries for my kids, to say, okay, let's put climate change as a slightly lower priority. And that's something that's instinctive. When the storm comes, you want to hunker down and just sort of huddle up and wait for it to blow over. We can't do that around climate change. And unfortunately, we have an awful lot of political amplification of the kind of narrative that is directly opposed to that. It's, some very, very profitable oil and gas companies and entrenched interests that very much want people to, put in opposition affordability and the fight against climate change. And that's really the challenge we have to take on. Everyone sort of understands, oh yes, we need to grow an economy and protect the environment at the same time. But when it comes to putting dollars in pockets for people, they don't want to hear about, if they just, pay a little more for an electric car, then that'll be protecting the environment. They can't pay a little more for an electric car right now. There's a sense that affordability is in direct contrast with our moral responsibility to protect the planet. And that is something that, unfortunately, people have been amplified and used propaganda, misinformation, disinformation, and flat out lies to scare people into saying, oh, no, we got to take care of our household budget and bottom line first, and environment second. And that's one of the things that we've really tried to tackle in Canada, because ultimately, even as we talk about global collective action and responsibility, we have a first primary responsibility to citizens in our own countries, because if they're not on board with us stepping up to fight climate change, both at home and around the world, they will withdraw political support from parties that are focused on doing that. And that's the challenge we have to tackle.
Yeah, that is a challenge you have to tackle. Absolutely. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. What he says is people can't afford to pay a little bit more for an electric car, but yet his government is putting forward an initiative to force people to buy electric cars. This is unbelievable. Starting in 2026, they're going to put a cap on the market for automobiles where any manufacturer has to sell at least 20% of their fleet has to be zero emissions electric cars. This is going to put an undue burden on the consumer and the companies alike, and it's going to make a quota system. That's what's going to end up happening. But when it comes to the environment, this has been well documented. People like Jordan Peterson have been talking about this. People like Bjorn Lornberg have been talking about this. When people are impoverished, they are not going to put the environment as a top priority. This is just the reality of the situation. If you want to push environmentalism as a path forward, you're going to have to push for the economy to be bright and prosperous. This is the only way you're going to get people on board with this initiative. And yes, you may think that that's a catch-22 because there's going to be oil companies and all this other stuff. You may think that that's bad. In fact, the environment gets a lot better when you actually work with the oil companies instead of trying to bankrupt them and put them out of business. This is the reality of the situation. Now, I've been talking about this for a while on the channel, the difference between environmental politics and possibly an ecological solution to a lot of these problems. Now, we're not all the sky is falling, the earth is going to end type of catastrophists, but many of us do care about the environment. This is a reality. And in Canada, I mean, Canadians have been primed for years and years and decades to care about the environment, and it's part and parcel of our way of life in this country. And yes, we all do care about the environment, but when it comes down to it, if we have to choose between feeding our kids and doing some initiative that Justin Trudeau is going to fly around the world polluting all over the place, yeah, people are going to turn to him and say, listen, I'm not so keen on your ideas and what it is that you have to say, but I'd love to hear what you have to say. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think. When it comes to environmentalism, I mean, Trudeau and his ilk, they take the cake on this one, and especially talk about eating cake or cake in general. This seems like a bit of a Marie Antoinette moment for Justin Trudeau with the let them eat cake. You shouldn't care about, you know, feeding your family and keeping a roof over your head in probably one of the worst economic downturns in Canadian history. But hey, you know, that's for you to leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.